Okay.
Quickly, we'll start the podcast so we can talk about this.
Hey, let's start. Oh, wait, no, it's not that one.
You blew it out.
Welcome to Still Untitled, the Adam Savage Project. I'm Will.
I'm Adam.
And I am Norm.
Hello, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Can we? Well, you guys were going to share. You had an accidental shared moment.
We did have an accidental shared moment because we both saw the same movie yesterday. I went to the movies and saw it down in Portola, which is a great, West Portal.
Oh, West Portal.
Wait,
West Portal's a great
the
theater.
Empire Theater.
Yeah.
I grew up, I saw Titanic at that theater 3 times.
3 times?
In middle school.
Wow.
I don't get upset about parking anymore because I'm an adult now and that just doesn't happen. But
it's okay.
That neighborhood, parking in that neighborhood is an goddamn nightmare.
It's cutthroat,
you got to do off the street. You can't do on that street.
Oh, I did. I ended up parking on Portola. And that was fine.
Yes.
That was
a great little theater. I think it's
Is
now
it a twin, but they broke it back open?
No. It used to be called just the Empire Theater. San Francisco has had, if you look at all the photos, tons of like classic, Balboa Theater, Roxy Theater, Empire.
Castro.
And then now a lot of them are, owned by bigger companies. This one, I believe, is it's a small like theater chain.
It's not like Cinemark or something, is it?
No, it's not one of those. I forget the name, but regardless.
I do too, even though I saw a movie there yesterday.
It's a lovely theater.
It was lovely. And I saw Spotlight.
Ah.
Yes.
Which is... you saw Spotlight as well.
Good that we're going to launch off on a real high note here.
The Oscars were a couple weeks ago. I don't know. I don't think we talked about the Oscars on the podcast.
I didn't even watch them, but I was in New York making air guns.
They were good. I thought it was a good year.
Yeah, Oscars were great. The best picture, of course, went to Spotlight. And I think a lot of people thought it would go between Spotlight and The Big Short. And so I hadn't seen either of those. I saw both of those this weekend.
Yeah, I've seen both. So let's talk
about them.
Yeah.
I thought
they're similar.
They're not dissimilar. Yes, they're covering a real world event in a cinematic way.
Fictionalized?
I think based on true events. So I think some characters are probably combined, some real world people are combined into character amalgams or some way in which screenwriters work that kind of magic. Right. I will say both involve incredible casts of people at the absolute peak of their powers.
And directing.
Yes. No. Full stop. Every performance in both movies is incredible.
I think the challenge of both those movies is they tackle these real world crises. And they have different challenges, but the problem with telling a film is you have to be entertained also as well as inform. And what The Big Short is trying to educate you about is the complexities of the financial crisis,
right?
Which things like NPR and Planet Money have tried to do over podcasts and radio shows, and have done very successfully.
Well, yes.
And they do it here in 2.5 hours, a little over 2 hours, in a wonderful way. And then Spotlight, the thing it's trying to educate you upon isn't the Catholic Church crisis and scandal. It's actually about journalism and the journalistic process.
Well, it's about journalism, the journalistic process. It's about Bastin, and it's about institutionalized censorship to a certain extent. The degree to which a reporter within a community might elide important things within that community because it's part of their culture. I thought Spotlight, I loved both movies. I don't think either one is better than the other, actually. But I think the cast of Spotlight might be the single best cast in a movie I've seen.
Who's in Spotlight?
Everybody. So Mark Ruffalo, Liev Schreiber, Rachel McAdams,
Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton's incredible.
Billy Crudup,
the Mad Men guy. What's his name?
John
Slattery.
John Slattery. Stanley Tucci. Oh my God. Every single one of these actors does something that is not quite expected. Like Stanley Tucci's character, it takes a while to meet him. He's a lawyer named Garabedian, and many people are like, "Have you met Garabedian? He's a bit of a character." There's a lot of that sort of exposition, and when you meet him, it's not a Stanley Tucci, I'm chewing the scenery type of thing. Hunger Games, not him in Hunger Games.
It's very understated and real. It's terrific. Liev Schreiber plays the new editor-in-chief of the Boston Globe, and comes in and almost disappears into the role.
This is the guy that played in the
this is the guy that
Sabretooth.
played Sabretooth.
The voice
in
of
Wolverine
HBO
movies.
Sports, let's just say.
Okay.
And Liev Schreiber has for years, he's Naomi Watts' husband. He's for years been one of my favorite actors. He's in Ray Donovan in Ray Donovan, and he's phenomenal. Give him anything to do. Action hero movie, give him he's the villain in Salt, right?
Yes.
Oh, spoiler alert.
Double agent. Too late. Statute of limitations.
Wow.
And he does so little in this film and yet has such a great impact. And everybody in the film is kind of doing that. There's not a lot of show. Look at me. There's none of that. It is just ensemble acting of the best kind. I enjoyed the spit out of it.
Yeah. And the story they're telling
It's the worst story ever.
about the scandal itself, of course.
Institutionalized child abuse by
Right.
the Catholic Church.
Which is something, it's 15 years ago. first
Maybe
of all.
institutional protection of child abusers by the Catholic Church is the more accurate. Sorry, Norm.
Tomato,
I just wanted
tomato.
I wanted to get. I want to get that right because I know I'm going to hear about it one way or the other. So
Well, it's
It's like John Oliver said, if you're pretending to be a racist or are you a racist?
at some point.
At some point, it doesn't make a difference.
Doesn't make a difference.
Anyway, sorry, go ahead, Norm.
The challenge of the journalists, and it was 15 years ago, which I think if you're telling a
was that
story,
long
I know
ago?
exactly, right? I mean, it feels like it was yesterday, but also that's enough time where the details have kind of been lost in our collective memory. And there was a whole generation who never experienced it. You might have heard of it, and it becomes essentially a Wikipedia entry page, a thing that's still it's probably maybe happening today, but has impact lasting through today. But the story that never gets told, and I'm not sure if it was a book that because Big Short was a book, but the story of the Spotlight team. When you're talking about the institutions that harbored this scandal, in effect, they create the resistance of journalism, of the seeking of truth.
Right.
And the whole movie is about how the journalists, the team of journalists, the four of them, face these walls as they go out into their community.
And to be clear, the Spotlight Group is a specialized group of 5 reporters within the Boston Globe that does long-term research on deep stories that have wide-ranging that go deep within their
Big
culture.
stories.
Big stories. And so this one took them months to bring to fruition. And there's discussions happening right on screen. Are we covering the crime committed by the cardinal or by the church? And this is actually one of the first big turns, is that the new editor says, no. We don't want to just bring down a cardinal that shuffled around these priests. If this is institutional, find me the evidence. Let's go after the institution
The
instead
systemic
of the person.
problem.
Yes.
And the fact that I think, in the news cycle today and with blogs and a lot of people getting their news from sources and news outlets that are online and do short-term reporting, and a lot of places do great long-term reporting. I think a lot of people don't understand and can't comprehend a team working on a single story for 6 months to a year.
I mean, it doesn't exist anymore.
Right. And that's
Barely exists.
That's
They call
kind
it
of
long form, but that's not it.
Right. Long form means it's got a lot
longer.
of words, not that somebody spent 6 months
exactly.
working on
Right,
it. Yeah.
exactly.
when Michael Keaton, who plays their editor, the Spotlight's editor, when he says, "Okay, I'm gonna need more time with this," and they're working on one story,
Yeah.
which will be in print for that one weekend, and they're doing it for 9 months.
It's amazing. It's
That-
an amazing investment from the Fourth Estate. It's an amazing level of trust that the organization has in Keaton and his team. And Michael Keaton he's just amazing.
I mean, starting with Birdman, the renaissance of Michael Keaton has been really good.
It has been really good. He's always was great. He was always great.
Of course.
And watching his face in this one, this is one of those films my wife was saying as we were driving away, like, wow, can you imagine being a director and thinking, I'm going to need to hold the camera on this actor's face for long periods of time, and all sorts of stories are going to get told by just that.
Yeah.
And Keaton delivers.
You know what it is? It's the modern equivalent of All the President's Men.
I was going to ask, how does it stack up to
Speaking of the modern equivalent of All the President's Men, John Slattery plays Ben Bradley Jr., the son of Ben Bradley, the editor played by Jason Robards in All the President's Men.
There you go. He also
I'm sorry,
kind
I'm
of
yelling because there's this point in All
Wow.
the President's Men when Jason Robards goes, when the hell is someone going to go on the record in this story? And this was like my best friend in high school and I. That's like we always did that. We just call each other up and yell that into the phone and then hang up.
If you've never seen All the President's Men,
Oh, yes.
by the way,
It's
Totally.
one
It's
of the
a
great films of the 20th century.
Absolutely.
and an important film, and for U.S. history. Also, John Slattery, it's a little bit Roger Sterling. Also,
Well, John has
John
his
Slattery
thing.
is Roger
He does
Sterling.
his thing.
Or Roger Sterling
even
is
his
John
role,
Slattery.
like he's going between the editor and his boss, and
I loved it. And so let's also talk a little bit about The Big Short because, I thought that one of the things that Spotlight did really well was show. So Spotlight involves also the reporters talking to people that they know and asking them questions they've never asked them before. Like, one of the Michael Keaton's reporter asks a friend of his who's a lawyer, "Did you ever defend any of these scumbag priests?" And I can't tell you that. And he's like, no, you're going to have to tell me that. And then he says to the Billy Crudup character.
Tom, why does he have to tell him that?
Well, he says to Billy Crudup,
Are we spoiling at this point?
Oh yeah, this is a spoiler.
Oh, okay.
Right here is a big spoiler. But look, none of these spoilers are going to ruin this movie
No,
for you. This
none
is
of
a
it.
great bit of negotiation. Michael Keaton says to Billy Crudup, "Hey, you got to tell us who you defended." And Billy Crudup says, "I can't." And he says, "I'm going to write one of two stories. One story is about the Catholic Church shuffling around a bunch of child molesters. The other is about lawyers turning the protection of pedophilic priests into a cottage industry. Which story would you like me to
Right.
write?" And the next morning, a full list of clients shows up.
So this is the thing that I love about this kind of movie is that you get because they have to fit it into 2 hours, they end up distilling down to the moment and the conversation, even if it's probably fictionalized.
Totally.
That's the interesting turning point and the wedge of this whole event.
well, never glamorizes what those reporters do. I mean, they are the heroes of the story, and there is a cathartic moment at the end,
Yes.
with the phone calls. But it's not. It's about telling the process, and it's not like putting them on pedestals.
No, and
you
it's
know.
not even making it very black and white. Like there's lots of conversations. There are many conversations in Spotlight that are all subtext. So there's a conversation happening between two people, but what's really being said is not what's being spoken. And that level of subtlety, both in the script and in the directing and in the acting, is an amazing confluence of all those three arts brought together because there's so much subtlety to the relationships between all the players.
And it's one of those cases where the truth, as strange it is, those coincidences that happen, the perfect timing, the finding of the certain people, in reality, these are things that actually happen. And it's why investigation works, is because people are careless and they don't think a long picture. And when journalists investigate, they can find these ties.
If you keep hammering at it long enough, the story gets knocked loose. You
Now,
find the right person.
Will mentioned that one of the things you love about these kind of docudramas is how they pinpoint these historical
The pivots, yeah.
right? And when we're talking about a movie like The Big Short, this is a movie that does that and really excels in making a piece of entertainment, because it too is telling a series of events, historical events from 2005 to 2008 in the financial crisis and the mortgage crisis. And one, like I mentioned earlier, they have to explain these incredibly complex ideas in finance, and then they do it elegantly.
About what credit default. They do it. I don't say that that's elegant. I say it's informational and wonderful because they have to communicate these really complicated things. So they're like, here's Margot Robbie in a bathtub telling you about credit default swaps.
So I mean, the difference here between these two films, is that one is something that's really, the villain is really easy to understand, right? Sexually abusive priests.
Right.
Something everybody can be, con on.
Right.
We understand where we stand. The mortgage default swap, most of the people affected probably still don't understand what happened today.
And just figuring out what the crime is takes a level of base knowledge, which is super intense.
At least all those people eventually went to jail, right?
I would say that for both those movies, the villains are actually not as clear cut as the stories would.
How do they portray the priests in Spotlight?
They barely, and there was one encounter with an interview with the priest.
Very upsetting.
It's very upsetting. It was the clip that was shown at the Oscars, actually.
Oh, really?
They show that interview, that front door interview at the Oscars for Rachel McAdams' nomination for Best Supporting Actress.
She's fantastic in this. I love it when they try and make her dowdy too. But he's so lovely.
Oh yeah, and okay.
I mean, they didn't do a full True Detective on her, which is the worst haircut that's ever been perpetrated on an actress in history. But sorry, go ahead.
Amazing era appropriate pants is what my phone says.
Really high waists?
No,
Okay, I'll have to watch the movie.
There is also, there's one cameo in Spotlight, which I really liked. Richard Jenkins, who many people would know as the other guy besides Bradley Whitford in Cabin in the Woods.
Oh, yeah.
Richard Jenkins, you've seen him in a million
Yeah,
things.
he's a character actor.
He's the guy on the phone. He's the researcher on the phone.
Really?
In Spotlight. Yeah.
The priest who married the nun and
Yeah.
oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
at all.
He's the one. No, the psychologist.
Oh, psychologist. Okay,
The
he's done the
psychologist
research.
who's-
Yeah,
the research guy.
Interesting. So, Will, the villain in Spotlight isn't the priest. The villain is the
the
system,
church.
right? It's a church and the community and the system that they've been living under. Just like in The Big Short, the villains aren't ABC, banker A, B, and banker B. It's
Wall Street.
the system as a whole. And
In fact, you could even make the argument at the end of The Big Short that among the villains are all the main characters.
all
of
the
the
main,
film.
everyone who
They all
benefits.
profited
Right.
off of the downfall of the American economy.
The gist of The Big Short is that they saw that the mortgage securities were weak
Yes.
and shorted them, meaning that
Yeah,
they bet
so-
that they were going to drop.
that there were several players who saw what was happening coming down the pike.
Yeah.
And these aren't the people who caused the financial crisis. And there are some of the people in all levels, from Standard & Poor's, some rating agencies, to the people writing loans. All of those people and banks.
To the guy who wrote the software that made the swaps actually happen.
They're all portrayed to some extent, but the protagonists of The Big Short are kind of the people who saw it happening, and they all made money from it. And really, the story is about why didn't people see it happen? Why didn't the system acknowledge that it was happening? And the thesis of The Big Short is two: one, greed, stupidity, and just blindness to it allowed this to happen, and two, they knew they would get away with it.
So you mean the people who were doing the short?
Yeah, no,
The
banks,
people who were doing the banks.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is the final thing, is that they totally knew that the U.S. government would bail them out at the end.
If you make a theft that's complex enough that no one can understand what you've actually stolen.
But I want to go back to, from the filmmaking standpoint, when you say a movie like a docudrama has to tell these pivots, The Big Short tells the pivots. Some of them actually happen, but they signpost it. And some of the things, for the sake of storytelling and making an entertainment film, they fictionalize.
Do they do like fourth wall breaking and tell
totally.
you?
They'll
Lots of
say
fourth wall breaking.
this thing,
Oh,
this
that's awesome.
conversation, this crazy thing actually happened, and you watch it. And then there's a thing that they do.
There's
scene
this
that's
point
like,
at which Steve Carell, again, a world beater performance from Steve
He's
Carell,
really good.
and Christian Bale, both playing very different people than they normally play. Christian Bale plays a guy who's so Asperger's-y, he's barely there, and yet so compelling to watch. And Carell is completely on the other end of the spectrum, just like noisy, and gets up in the middle of this meeting and yells. And there's this
Ryan Gosling.
Ryan Gosling turns to the camera and goes, "This really happened. He really did this in this meeting, and no one cared."
and then there are moments where they turn the camera and say, well, this meeting didn't happen exactly like we portrayed it, but for the sake of storytelling, it's way more interesting to show this.
Do you know my favorite version of that in any film is in the great 24-Hour Party People?
I've never seen it.
Oh, that's a fantastic movie.
It's, trust me,
You'd love
phenomenal.
it. Yeah.
Steve Coogan, is it Michael Winterbottom?
That seems. I know it's Steve Coogan. I'll look while you
The
talk.
24-hour
24-Hour Party People.
Party
It's about
People.
the Manchester rave scene.
interesting.
It's about rave and DJ culture in Manchester in the 80s.
It's on Hulu.
It's on Hulu. Seriously, it is one of those movies when you watch it, you're going to tell everyone about it for the next week, because you're going to be like, have you seen this movie? This movie there's a bit where a scene happens in a bathroom, and then Coogan turns right to the camera and says, the guy who's playing the bathroom attendant, he's actually me in this scene, and he doesn't remember it happening like this.
So it's Steve Coogan, Patty Considine,
Who
and
directed it?
Michael Winterbottom.
Michael
It is
Winterbottom.
Michael Winterbottom.
And
It's,
Andy Serkis is in it.
Yeah, Circus plays the producer for the band, the amazing band in there.
Sorry.
Sounds like an
remember. It's been a
American
long time.
Splendor thing. Do you remember American Splendor, where Paul Giamatti?
I never saw American
I
Splendor.
like it.
Oh, it's a very breaking the fourth
Never
wall.
got through American Splendor.
24-Hour Party People is masterful and does tons of breaking the fourth wall, and Coogan is incredible. It's the first time I saw Steve Coogan, and he's a genius.
It's a lovely film.
But you're right. So the breaking of the fourth wall to get through some of the complicated financial instruments and players that The Big Short does.
And to tighten the story, but also to accentuate the farce that happened in reality.
So let's also talk about the fact that Adam McKay, the director of The Big Short, is not a director of dramas.
He's
a comedy.
Austin Powers,
Austin Powers. He's Talladega
Nights.
He's a bunch of
Step Brothers, I
Will
think.
Ferrell vehicles.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things I've maintained for years, and I might have said it on this podcast. I think that comedians often make among the best actors. Because I think of stand-up comedy as one of the more intense art forms of confronting yourself and getting over your own shit in order to be honest about what's going on with you in front of an audience. And that's just my working theory. But a lot of amazing comedians have become incredible actors.
You have to be really self-aware to be a comic.
I think so.
And you look at Michael Keaton, who was originally a comic, right? Remember when he was cast to play Batman? It was like, oh man, there's no way this Joker can play Bat. Yeah, it's a long history of that. Yeah.
And I think that there's also, it's very interesting to me that McKay uses some of his knowledge of comic timing to get great moments out of The Big Short, but he also uses those same skills to pull great drama out of this super complicated story.
This should be the darkest of comedies, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It is supremely depressing.
Yeah, it is very fucking
Both those movies are, you walk away and like, oh, this is the world. I mean, they were fantastic movies, but it's like, this world sucks.
So,
yeah.
Speaking of period pieces that hinge on things that happen in the real world and are probably fictionalized, have either of you watched Vinyl?
I watched the opening episode enough to be a little bit exhausted by it.
So the first episode was intense.
Yeah.
The second episode is pretty funny.
Okay.
That's where
everyone in it.
That's where I've gotten so far.
So this is a HBO series, new series.
Scorsese directed the opening episode and is one of the executive producers.
The showrunner is created by the guy who did Boardwalk Empire and has some of the same cast. And it's about these
American Century
70s?
Records, the late 70s or early, I guess it's early 70s, disco era for sure. Nehru jackets, the vinyl leisure suits, the whole thing.
I love Nehru jackets.
I'm not sure I know what a Nehru jacket is. Is that the one without a collar?
Yeah, it's got the high collar.
Okay.
It doesn't flare out. It just comes up like
yeah. It's, okay. So no, they don't have those. It's all leisure suits then. It was some of the best cinematography I've seen on TV ever.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Like,
I'll totally give you that. I just found dramatically I wasn't that interested.
That's kind of like, I was like, this is intense for intense sake. This is a period I don't really care that much about. It's music I don't really care that much about. But the way it's shot was enough to get me to watch the second episode. And I'll probably go through and watch the other six or whatever.
Bobby Cannavale?
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
The performances were really good.
Yeah, really, really wonderful.
The other thing I've been watching lately is, and I actually watched all of this. I'm not sure if I like it or not. It's kind of one of those weird ones, but it falls in the comedians, people who are traditionally comics getting really intense performances out of people. And that's Love, which is the Judd Apatow produced Netflix series that I think is brand new.
So my 17-year-old son just texted me the other day and said, have you seen it? It's really great. It's spectacular. So I'm going to give it a shot.
It was honest and painful about the ways people are horrible to each other in a way that, and also the way people are kind to
What
each
age
other.
group?
Let's say people in their early 20s,
Okay,
maybe
yeah,
early to mid.
Yeah, that's when we unleash the most amount of emotional havoc on each other.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. Like these are actually, that's not right. These people are in their 30s, but they're early 30s, and they're not stable early 30s. They're early 30s that want to be stable and aren't there yet.
This isn't the one with the brothers Duplass, right? No, that's Happiness. Is that Happiness?
That's a movie.
No,
isn't it?
Yeah, it is a movie, but also
I know they have a new show.
They have a show.
I haven't seen. I don't know that. This is not
Togetherness.
so many-
Togetherness. That's
so
the
much
Duplass
television.
brothers show.
So this is, it's light and it's like 30-minute episodes. It's shot like a sitcom. There's funny moments. There's a lot of uncomfortable sex stuff.
All right.
It's pretty funny, and it also makes you kind of think about how you treat people.
Oh,
So, like I said, I don't know if I really like it or not, but I watched all of the episodes, which is more than I do for most TV.
Because he produced Girls, and he's still
Yes.
producing Girls. Is this his like? Okay, I'm going to do my thing in this world.
I
Terrible
wouldn't.
millennials type thing.
I think that these people probably are technically.
past that.
Well, no, Norm, you're a millennial, right? Technically.
I don't know. I don't know what the boundaries are.
I just squeaked past the boomer generation. I'm officially a Gen X, I guess, right?
Yeah, see, I'm in Never Neverland because I'm too young for a Gen X and too old for a millennial. The world's
There's
oldest
Y.
millennial.
There's Y.
No, they dropped that. It doesn't exist anymore. It's been retconned. Anyway, it is not as kind of self-obsessed as Girls is.
So
Which I found much more palatable.
Lastly, I would be remiss if I didn't keep mentioning Hamilton, because I'm still obsessed with it.
Did you go when you were in New York?
No, I did not go this week when I'm in New York. I did buy some tickets to see it in a couple of weeks. That was not through any special deal or favor or anything. I just paid for them.
Okay.
Which is silly, but I can't wait to see it. I'm dying to see it with Lin-Manuel Miranda. I met a Daily Show writer, Trayvon Free, who's also obsessed. We had a lovely talk in New York. And per my obsession, I'm now halfway through the Chernow biography of Hamilton, which is called Hamilton. I don't know how they came
This
up
is
with
the
that
big
name.
one from like 6 years ago.
It's phenomenal.
Really?
He's a wonderful writer. It's great historical writing. He pauses every now and then to go, let's just tally up the amount of crap he had to deal with before he was 17. Here's what happened. Okay, now, they really, really, really lovely writing and tremendous scholarship. He went through all 20,000 pages of Hamilton's writings. I mean,
Wow.
yeah, astounding. Huge. He refers to assumptions made by other historians and gives his take on them. It's a very well-rounded biography.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Speaking of books, your friend Mary Roach has a new book coming out
Yes!
soon.
I just got it in the mail. I haven't read it yet.
It's called
per her one-word titles.
It's what a brilliant, like, how I
mean, she did do Packing for Mars.
Right. Right, but after you got all those other titles, like, how could you come up with and perfectly Grunt?
So it's all about the military.
Yes, about the crazy science of military and war.
I can't wait. Mary's one of my favorite writers and one of my favorite people. We should have her as a guest on this podcast.
Yeah,
anytime.
She is a friend.
She's the best.
She is the best.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to reading that
great.
as soon as I plow through this.
When she was on the Talking Room, like you guys talked for I think longer than anybody else we'd ever had on. One, and two, when you were done talking, the conversation kept going and continued being just as interesting.
That is exactly what it's like.
And she engages the whole room. She's awesome. She's really good.
Absolutely.
I think that's as good a place as any to wrap this up. Norm, what do you got to plug this week?
This is the week this episode's coming out. It's
next
Game
week.
Developers Conference. GDC's going on. We got a lot of builds stuff. Adam's been shooting a bunch of builds, and we have a new one, I believe, this week coming out. So you'll have to check that out. I won't say what it is.
Are you gonna have some VR stuff this week?
There will definitely be some VR stuff.
Okay. Sounds good. And that'll do it for us this week. Thank you guys for watching. See you next time.
Thanks
Bye.
for coming.
Bye.